Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the FTF Grand National Series, sponsored by the Splash and Go Graphics, and we've got ourselves a wild race today. We're going to be seeing some racing action here at Road America. We got 30 laps of action, and we're going to be seeing some cars that are going to be racing their way and hopefully having a road course win to point their way into the playoffs. As we're getting closer and closer to the end of this thing, we've only got a handful of racetracks left to get into this thing. We've got 43 cars ready for action here tonight. Starting off as our pole sitter is going to be the number, excuse me, I'm trying to get this stuff going, but it looks like we are underway, and some cars are starting under the green, as there is actually an issue on our end. Hold on one moment.
Alrighty, folks, we're just going to take a quick intermission. Looks like iRacing may have had a little bit of a hiccup, so we'll be back here in just a few minutes.
Evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome here to the 23rd race of the season for the FTF Grand National Series presented by Splash and Go Graphics. We are here tonight to go road course racing at the Road America Road Course. It is the third or fourth broadcast that we have done for FTF at road courses, and they have not disappointed. I'm Seth Cole alongside of Samuel Dyer. And Sam, we saw a league run here at Road America last night. What are the struggles these drivers are going to have to deal with this evening?
It's going to be heavy braking zones and making sure that you keep those tires under yourself. It's going to be difficult for a lot of these drivers. A lot of runoff space, but a very narrow racetrack to be on.
And we have not broadcasted FTF since all the way back on July 4th at Lucas Oil Raceway. A lot of stuff has happened since then. Of course, Michael Frisch won the Lucas Oil Raceway event. Then we went to Iowa. Kane Cook picked up what I believe is his third win of the season. Daytona Road Course, finally Brian Mercurio finds victory lane. And last week, after the mayhem of the short track of Oxford Plains, we saw Seth DeMerchant go to victory lane. But the playoffs are really the big story coming into this one right now, because we've got a couple of drivers that have been able to make their way back up into the top 25 in the standings. Kane Cook and Brandon Hawken, they are in playoff positions right now, eliminating out drivers like Shane Tyrion and the guy who's on the outside of the front row for tonight's race, Philip Kraus.
Yeah, now with us being at a road course, you got to know that Hawken feeling pretty good. He won back at Spa and hoping to get another win under his belt, as he's been looking quite well the last couple of weeks.
He definitely has. He's been good at the road courses as well. I believe that he also ran Montreal, and he finished 6th there. So his numbers at the road courses have been very, very good. But we also know that Road America is one of those tracks that can play out in terms of fuel strategy and just overall keeping your car on the racetrack. So could we maybe see another driver pick up their first win of the season here tonight and take away another playoff position?
It's always an opportunity here tonight, and also different rules set being implemented here tonight. I believe at the round lap 9 is when we're going to be having a competition caution for these drivers, and at that point, drivers will be coming in, and I believe that will actually set it up to where these drivers won't have to worry about coming into the pits anymore, and it will just be a sprint to the end.
If you're wondering why the cars are not rolling off the grid, at the road courses, it's a standing start. So we're waiting for everybody to get onto the track, and as soon as the green flag flies, we are underway. And there's a couple of places here, as the green flag, I believe, is out. There's a couple of places here these drivers are going to have to worry about. The thing I think they're going to have to worry about the most, we've got over 40 cars in tonight's field.
A lot of machines coming down, and you know turn number 1 is going to be chaotic for a lot of these machines as they dig it deep in. Well, it's going to be Blake Reynolds holding them off, but you got to make sure that everyone stays clean, as it looks like Michael Cozy Jr. having a little bit of issues coming off of turn number 1. Nearly
went off into the sand trap off of turn 1 as he'll lose a spot to Nate Stewart. And you'll notice some of the liveries here tonight, including the 13. Tonight is Animation Domination, where drivers are running throwbacks to their favorite cartoons through the years. And Nate Stewart in the 13 machine is actually the host of tonight's race, making this themed event.
And it's a good-looking machine that he has, but coming into turn number 5, this is where we're going to be seeing a lot of cars, heavy braking zone, a lot of action can happen in the back, and right now, everyone looking good so far.
Blake Reynolds trying to do his best to pull away, but so far it's not been able to. Philip Kraus in the 91. We talked about Brandon Hawken having good numbers. He also, talking about Kraus, ran well at Spa as he really drove it in deep, and oh, he's off course.
And that's going to be Philip Kraus, who just dumps it into the tire barrier. Hard hit for the 91 machine.
And that's going to drop him well outside of the top 10, maybe even outside of the top 20 after starting on the front row. So now it's going to be Blake Reynolds out in front, Brandon Hawken in second, and Derek Justice is back in third. I don't know what's been going on here with this 31 car, but I remember when we started broadcasting for FTF near the beginning of the season, it was the Blake Reynolds, Derek Justice show. Justice has not been to victory lane in the last 5 weeks.
Yeah, it's been looking like a struggle for this Baskin-Robbins machine, but there's always a chance to rebound and try to get back up top. I mean, he's just the 31 machine has to start hitting his momentum now as we're getting closer and closer to playoffs.
I mean, Derek Justice, the thing for him is he does have 7 wins. He has 44 playoff points as opposed to the 5 wins and 33 playoff points that Blake Reynolds has. So he's at least got the advantage there, but there's still a little bit of a ways to go here in the regular season, so Justice has to make sure that Reynolds doesn't close that gap up anymore.
And Blake Reynolds is going to be holding off Brandon Hawkins for now, leading lap number 1, but for how long? As it looks like that 89 machine looking hungry to get back up into the lead.
Seth DeMerchant picked up the victory at Oxford Plains last week after we had heat races, LCQs, but he took the checkered flag. He is back in the 18th position right now, and he's only making his second start on the season. Because of that being his series debut, he's 95th in the standings, so the likelihood of him making it to the playoffs is slim to none, but nice to see that after he took a checkered flag, he decided to tackle the twists and turns of Road America.
Yeah, and Ashley's about to be making a pass here on the 63 machine, and might be able to do it down the straightaway coming into turn number 5.
Names that are up here in the field that we have not seen since we last broadcasted back at Lucas Oil. The 65 of Roswell Harlow just outside of the top 10 right now in that 11th position, trying to reel in Cosmin Ishinoshu, and right behind him you've got Kane Cook, who took that victory a couple of weeks ago at Iowa.
And Kane Cook, always someone to watch out for at the ovals, but also running pretty well, just a couple positions outside of the top 10. That's 55 machine, great day so far.
We've had a couple of drivers run into some issues early, including Andrew Schwartz in the 67. He is all the way back in the 38th position right now, and that is a driver that came into this race up there in the point standings. I believe he was 6th in the points coming into this race, so early struggles for him. Another driver back there as well that's been running fairly well in the point standings would be the 62 of Kyle Riley. Of course, with a lot of the drivers picking up wins in the last couple of weeks and knocking drivers out of playoff contention, Riley was up in the 12th position at one point in a playoff spot. Now he's 13th, 4th car outside of the playoff grid.
Yeah, rocking that Outback machine, and also a car in front of him having a little bit of issues, and we'll be dropping back. I believe that was the 11 machine that had some issues. I take that back, actually, that was Jake Poulin and the 00.
Poulin's 7th in the points coming into this one, and I mean, right now the guy that's on the bubble spot would be the 35 of Sean Butler, who right now is in the 19th position, because much like guys like Philip Kraus and Shane Tyrion, with Kane Cook, Brandon Hawkins, former winners, moving up in the top 25, if we have anybody else inside the top 25 go to victory lane, then Butler would be out, they would be in.
Oh, and a car in the back spinning it around, and that will leave is going to be the 63 machine. It was that got spun around. We're going to take a quick replay to see what exactly happened with that machine.
That was Ryan Pandicio that went around, and he is now faded all the way back to the rear of the field. As I'm keeping an eye here, as you'll look at that replay, I'm keeping an eye here on the front of the field, and I think we had another incident. Yes, Cosmin Ishinoshu has spun around, entering into turn 5, but he was up inside the top 10.
And more issues for the 63 as well, as Idris off the track again.
Trying to quickly see if I can find out what happened to the 84 of Cosmin. I think it was Kane Cook in the 55 that was behind him. And Cosmin, okay, so what happened was Cosmin was trying to move out of the way for Kane Cook, got his right side tires off into the grass, and with his left sides having grip, his right sides having none, it just shot his car around and he nosed it into the wall.
Moving back up front, it's going to bring Blake Reynolds still holding off Hawkins and Derek Justice, and I got to give credit to Hawkins, still keeping it within a half a second, and if these two have any type of slip up, there's 3 cars behind them that are hungry to get up front.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the 4 drivers we had battling it out in the closing stages back at Spa were the 3, the 89, the 41, and the 40, and they're all up here inside the top 5 here today at Road America.
Yeah, those were all the cars that have been doing well, and I believe Derek Justice was running in the top 10 during that race as well.
Problems for Dylan Smith in the 1. He went around off of Canada Corner, so he's going to drop outside of the top 30. The good news for a lot of these drivers that have hit early issues, as you alluded to, we're going to have that competition caution coming out, so everybody will be lined back up and being able to make some forward progress. Oh, and we had contact between himself and Ethan Merkley coming off the final turn.
Merkley somehow got that 11 machine out of that dirt trap, and was able to continue forward in the 11, but man, that was a hard racing move right there. Hard charging. You got to be careful when people start making those diving moves.
Right now, the top 5 have gapped themselves back to Michael Cozy Jr. Right now, no pun intended, he's in a cozy position because he's got about maybe 2 seconds between himself and 5th place, but then he's also enjoying about a 3.5 second gap back to the 7th place car of Evan Rice. So right now, if you're Michael Cozy Jr., you just have to worry about hitting your marks.
Yeah, Michael Cozy Jr. on that first lap drifted off a little bit, lost a couple of positions, so a good rebounding so far for the 99.
We saw just how, oh, we got another car that's had trouble. That's the 12 of Gary Waterworth. He looped it around off of turn 6. Another car also had an issue back there. I think that might possibly have been, I think it was a South Bell machine, and I'm not certain who it was.
I did not catch it on my end either on who it was, but yeah, I saw a car go around.
Of Ryan Williams or the 03 of Casey Nemitz. Both of them running the Bell South base scheme, and either one of them, I don't know which one, went off into the sand trap to avoid. They didn't spin, but they did get off course.
And right now, everyone up still pretty split up. But some of the best battling that's going on is from 3rd to 4th. I mean, 3rd to 5th place. You got Justice, Malello, and Alt all still right on top of one another.
Another car has had a problem. Alan Ballacchino off of Canada Corner, I believe that is. It might actually be off of turn 11.
As well as the 12 having more issues, which clogged up everyone on the track for a second there. Now everyone's 2x2 coming up through these corners, coming up to around turn 11.
And these are not exactly the corners you're supposed to be racing side by side, and they're almost very similar to running the S's at Watkins Glen, where everybody really has to get single file. And we've got a car headed for pit road. I believe that is the 00 of Jake Poulin. You mentioned about the fact of that competition caution coming out. We could see some of these drivers kind of leapfrog to pit road before that caution comes out, and then stay out and gain track position when we eventually have the yellow flag displayed.
Yeah, and right now is the best time to come in. These drivers can go for about 25 to 27 laps on fuel, and it's one of those really risky moves, but you know that we're going to have competition caution, so even if you feel like you might miss the mark by a little bit, those caution pace laps are going to help drastically for you at least trying to save more fuel for the later run.
And who has been the king of the long run so far here? I think it would probably have to be that 59 of Seth DeMerchant. Last time we saw him, he was back in 18th. He is now all over the back bumper of Roswell Harlow for a spot inside the top 10.
Yeah, and he's been doing a pretty good job.
Oh boy, both he and Harlow locking up the brakes. Harlow's going to overdrive the corner. DeMerchant kept it on course.
And now Harlow's got to figure out how to get back on course without causing an incident, and will do so, finding a little bit of a pocket to get back onto the track.
Tough thing too, a lot of these areas where you go off course, sometimes depending on the way your car is facing, kind of going back to when we saw Alan Ballacchino facing the wrong way, it's very difficult to bring your car back up onto the racing surface when you've got oncoming traffic.
Justin Malello going to be having even more issues in that 53 machine, going to be taking off the same place that we just saw our last car go off course.
Malello is a driver that with a win today could solidify himself a spot in the playoffs, and Brandon Hawken has not let Blake Reynolds get away, and they are starting to close in on a machine. I believe that might be the 52 of Benjamin Fanning, so hopefully he'll be able to get out of the way when these leaders catch him.
Right now on screen, we're watching the battle for 16th position as, you know, Harlow, he came back on course, but he has caused where there's a lot of machines stuck behind him that are trying to get by, and we've been seeing a lot of 2x2 action between these 4 machines.
Nemitz there, Seth Noel, Ryan Williams as well. Whoa! I think we had a cone go flying there, and oh, there goes Nemitz.
Nemitz going off track, and they still continue to battle forward. And Nemitz is going to be losing quite a few positions after that spin.
The problem with Road America is it's one of those road courses that is very unforgiving. If you go off course, you're going to find yourself way off in the grass, in the sand trap, or even worse, maybe into a concrete or tire barrier.
And as we're getting closer and closer to that competition caution marker, which will be lap 9 for these drivers, right now the battle for the lead, it is at its closest that we've seen in a while, with it being about almost 2/10 off one another, and Hawkins getting closer and closer to the back bumper of the 3.
Blake Reynolds may have used up his stuff here, trying to gap himself from second on back. Brandon Hawkins may have been saving, and he has put the pressure now on that Coca-Cola Chevrolet of Blake Reynolds. I want to just quickly update on something. I mentioned that Andrew Schwartz, it looked like he was struggling. He actually ran the strategy of starting from pit road, and I mentioned the fact that we did a broadcast here at Road America last night. We saw a couple of drivers adapt that strategy there as well.
Yeah, it just looked like they didn't get on the grid in time, so they started off in the pit road. And they also, at that last road course that we watched yesterday, they also had a competition caution at the halfway marker. So it allows these drivers that did start during pit roads for them to come back and really challenge these drivers that are having issues right now.
This the competition caution because the field is now slowed.
Looks like possibly it was called early.
If I remember correctly, back at Montreal, these drivers were told there was going to be a competition caution. The admins called an audible, throwing off any potential pit strategy. I think they did it again. They threw the caution about 3 laps earlier than the drivers were told.
And that would really change up a lot of these drivers. We aren't seeing any yellow on our ticker just yet, because we're waiting for the drivers to be given, and looks like the yellow flag now up in the air for the drivers, as they're all going to be collected up, and after they go around once as a group, pit road will be open for these drivers.
Yep, the yellow flag has been thrown by the admins. It will not show on the ticker necessarily, as it is a admin called caution. So these drivers will be pacing around here, and then pits will be open the next time around. My assumption is we'll probably then go green the next time, as I'm sure they're going to want to have as few laps under pacing as possible.
And just take it back, Jake Poulin, he did come into the pits during that time, so with him coming into the pits, he could possibly stay out, because he was just at that marker of possibly making it to the end where he was at.
But the interesting thing is here, I mean, we know these drivers can make it at least 17 laps, because in the race that we did last night, they ran 34 laps. They kind of split it in half with the competition caution. They went 17 laps in the first run, 17 laps in the second run. If the calculations are correct with my assumption of when we'll go back green, it'll be about 20 laps to go. Is fuel going to be a concern for these drivers? That's the thing that we don't know.
I believe that the drivers can make it 20 laps on fuel. I believe that it's going to be close for 20 or more. And so we're waiting to see on these drivers.
As the field is currently under pacing, we saw a couple of drivers going around. I believe getting either one of their laps back or getting back on the lead lap. A couple of drivers, I believe, have already brought their cars back behind the wall, including Jacob Fortino, Craig Hawkins, I think Noah Carmichael. Oh, no, Carmichael's still out there. I think we have 2 drivers that are officially out, Hawkins and Fortino. 41 of our 43 cars are still running, and right now I believe that we have 37 of them on the lead lap. I think the free pass machine under that caution was the 52 of Benjamin Fanning.
That it was, and he pulled off and passed our leaders as they were going through turn number 3. Right now our drivers are coming up to turn number, I believe this is 8 that they're coming up to, and this is probably, turn 8 is one of those trickier corners that we usually see throughout this race, as well as 5, and also 11 is another corner that they also have some trouble with sometimes, just because those are some of the heaviest braking zones here on the track.
And the corner has also proved to be a bit of an issue as well. I think that's turn 14 here at Road America. And I believe that Poulin did stay on the lead lap when he came to pit road. He's currently in the 35th position. So you already mentioned the fact you think these drivers can go 20 laps, but right now, Poulin, with the amount of laps that he's been out there since making that pit stop, he'd have to go an extra 4 laps. Can he make it 24 laps?
It's going to be close for him. I think he might be a lap or two short, but he's really hoping to save fuel during this pacing. And that's where we're going to be waiting to see if these drivers can make it to the end or not. With some of the guys that decided to come in and pit early, man, it is going to be tough for some of these drivers out here. I know Andrew Schwartz happy to see this competition caution come out, because now it gives him an opportunity to make it to the end.
Now there are 41 cars still in this race. Obviously at the road courses, they can hold upwards of 64 cars. And we've seen big fields back at Spa, back at Montreal, and now here again at Road America. So pit road is going to be very congested. It's going to be interesting with all these different drivers going to different pit stalls. If it might play into the head of some of these race leaders, we could see some positions gained and lost on pit road.
Yeah, pit road is when we'll be seeing, honestly, this is where we've seen a lot of races be won and lost, is off of pit road. You can make the simple mistake of missing your pit stall. You could slide into your pit stall. You can also just have a long stop because your crew members made a mistake. And we're going to be seeing all that action here as the drivers are starting to come up to the hill and they're getting ready to come into the pits.
Blake Reynolds going to lead them up the hill here, a very unique road course where the start-finish line is at the top of a crest of a hill, and subsequently pit road entrance is as well. Obviously, I'm assuming we're going to see 4 tire stops all around as these drivers are going to make absolutely certain they have these gas tanks completely full of Sunoco fuel.
And here they come. Blake Reynolds going to be leading the way. We're going to be staying on with Blake Reynolds, making sure that he has a clean stop, but I believe Poulin might have stayed out. Am I right or am I wrong with that one?
Jake Poulin did stay out. He looks like he may be the only one that has stayed out at this point in time.
So Poulin's got to be the one to watch out for in that 00 if he can make it to the end. Here with being the only, I believe he's one of the only drivers that stayed pitted and will be coming out as they all start to shuffle out of the pit road, trying to see who's going to get what position, as it looks like Evan Rice might have clogged up the exit there, and I think there might have been some contact with himself, Mercurio, and Kane Cook.
What kind of effect is that damage going to have? Minimal contact usually on pit road, since these drivers have to maintain about 40 to 45 miles per hour pit road speed. But we've seen before at road courses that what might not look visibly like a whole lot of damage can affect the race car in a big, big way.
Well, it's time to rack them up and stack them up, as these drivers are going to be trying to figure out how to get 2 by 2, as the admins are going to have a great time organizing this one up. And man, it looks like we're going to be just doing that. 3 pace laps for these drivers coming into the pits and getting back out there.
Jake Poulin, in the last couple of road course starts, he finished 16th at Spa, and then at Montreal, he finished in 9th. So he's managed to finish decently, had a top 10 run when we were up in Canada. And so we'll see if maybe this strategy of coming to pit road just a few laps before the competition caution was thrown, if this gaining him this track position is going to be a race-winning move, but he's going to have to hold off your multi-time winners in Blake Reynolds and Derek Justice. Dylan Alt is looking for his first win of the season. Michael Cozy Jr., 2-time winner back there in 5th. Brandon Hawken in 6th. And then you've got a couple of other drivers back here like Evan Rice and Evan Brinker inside the top 10. They are also looking for their first win of the season, but 7 of our former winners this year are up there inside of that top 10. They're looking for playoff points.
And, you know, something that was a factor of last night's race that we saw at Road America was the track temperature. We're going to take a quick look at this. Outside temp looking like it's 80 degrees, and track temp 96 degrees for these drivers. So it's a slick track out there for everyone racing on this road course.
You think it's hard to go into these heavy braking zone areas of the track, let alone have to deal with the slick conditions out there. These drivers are going to have a tough 22 laps ahead of them here, and now at this point in time, since the competition caution is over, If anybody ends up making a mistake on the track, they're going to have to rely on their savviness and the speed of their race car to gain it back.
And Blake Reynolds is going to want to get this lead back immediately, and he's kind of been known as one of those road course aces at the start of the season, and then got to see some other drivers coming in like Brandon Hawkins and other machines making some surprises on the 3 machine here at these road courses. But that Blake Reynolds wants to get up front as quick as possible so he can try to pull away from everyone else.
Yeah, before that competition caution came out, it was Blake Reynolds and Brandon Hawkins that were nose to tail. But Blake Reynolds had started the race from the pole. Hawkins had started it from 4th. Now it's going to be Reynolds on the front row, but this time in 2nd. Hawkins going to be all the way back in 6th. So he's going to have to pass a few more race cars before he can get back up there and try and make a challenge again for that 3 machine if he does get around Jake Poulin for the top position.
And it's just going to be a rough day for him overall. Looking at other machines, we were talking about Andrew Schwartz in that 67. Started in the pit road, worked his way up into the top 25 positions. Right now in 22nd. So we'll see if that 67 machine can work his way up even further now that he's starting out there on the track with everyone else and on similar tires.
And another driver that caution benefited to kind of get him caught back up was Philip Kraus. We saw him get off course when trying to take the race lead away from Blake Reynolds. He is back in the 12th position. This is a driver that qualified up on the outside of the front row, so we'll see if he can make forward progress, get himself back up into the top 5.
And as these drivers are slowly getting closer and closer to the start-finish line for us to get back underway, well, Seth, anyone you've got your eye on that you think really could be making a hard charge forward, or you think that really our top 5 cars are the only ones that are going to be challenging for this lead?
Well, I'll tell you, like I said, back at Spa, it was Blake Reynolds, it was Derek Justice, Dylan Alt, Brandon Hawken, and Brian Mercurio that were battling that out for that victory. Well, 4 of those 5 have been to victory lane. I'm looking at that 40 car of Dylan Alt. He had good numbers back at Montreal as well. He always seems to be strong at the road courses. I think with the fact that we're getting close to the end of this regular season, Dylan Alt is saying to himself, man, if I'm going to win my way into the playoffs, this may be my best shot. He currently comes into this race 15th in the point standing, so look for that 40 car to be aggressive here today. He's the one I've definitely got my eye on.
Well, these drivers are getting ready to go around the final corner, and then they're going to have the long climb up until we get to the front straightaway. The drivers are going to be going green with about 22 laps to go. Excuse me there. But Jake Poulin leading the way in the 00 with Blake Reynolds on his outside.
We saw how chaotic the start of the race was with them all double file, and that was when it was a standing start. Now they're rolling up to the start-finish line, so things may be even more congested as they'll carry even more speed into the heavy braking right-hander turn 1.
And as they're at the top of the hill, green flag back out into the air for these drivers, and it's gonna be Jake Poulin trying to pull away from everyone else, but here comes Derek Justice thinking about making it 3 wide.
Now he'll shoot to the middle. Crowds Brandon Hawken, and there goes Brian Mercurio. He saved it.
I don't know how he did, but they're all clustered up in the back as they've got multiple machines all scattered all over the place back here in 20th and all back.
Riley had to cut through the grass into turn 1 as his car hopped up into the air from the rumble strip to the grass to the asphalt. He has fallen back quite a bit because of that, but even after all the chaos going into turn 1, somehow they all made it through.
Somehow they did, and up front, we're watching is Jake Poulin leading the way, and Derek Justice losing a position. It looks like that is actually going to be an admin called caution flag.
Yes, it is. You are correct. They are throwing an admin called yellow as Jake Poulin's going to bring the field down to about 60 miles per hour under pacing.
So our drivers now going to be doing a couple more pace laps here, and didn't really get to show off too much action, but we can go back and re-watch that as all the action was back there with Warren Keith and the rest of the drivers entering turn number 1.
Yeah, I'm looking at the driver chat here, and one driver that apparently was right in the middle of all of this was the 71 of Chris Wetz. He said he got run over, but I think a lot of other drivers did as well. The initial contact back there in turn 1, I believe, is going to start with the possibly the 56
Coming
of
in
Roswell
here.
Harlow.
Yeah, you can see Harlow getting stuck in the middle. And then that other machine in the white and blue, that was going to be Wets. And then the 747 that we were on board with, that was Warren Keith. And you just saw they all got clustered up into turn number 1. And they all tried to get going again. And it was just mayhem all around into turn number 1.
Yeah, Chris Wetz, we saw him getting into Warren Keith. He kind of took the same line to turn 1 that we saw Brian Mercurio did, but he got a shot from behind, and I believe that was courtesy of the Seth Noel machine.
Looking like the 49 machine going to be getting the free pass because of that.
So that will leave us with 39 cars on the lead lap, as a couple of other drivers have, I believe, taken their cars out of this event. Alan Balancino, who we saw have an issue over in Canada Corner, he is now out of the race, and Cosmin Shinoshu has also taken his number 84 behind the wall after he had his issue over in turn 5. And for Cosmin, that is a very important DNF in terms of playoffs, because he came into this race 12th in the overall standings, 3rd driver out of a playoff position.
And, man, it is crazy how one road course could cause a lot of issues. And we even saw this at Spa back when we were watching that race, with how many cautions were coming up just because they were coming up the hill. And we'll wait and see how these drivers take this one. It looks like a few drivers coming into the pits this time by.
And to your point, I think a big reason for it is because there's a number of road courses that we go to where there is a little bit of room for runoff. We go to Watkins Glen. They've obviously created a lot of runoff areas for drivers if they have mistakes or if they need to get around a race car. But you come to a place here like Road America, there's very little room for error. And there's not a whole lot of places on the track where you can hold it double wide. So if you make a mistake, your mistake's not only going to maybe be costly for you, but a number of other drivers behind you, like we clearly saw with that stack up into turn 1.
Yeah, it's such a simple mistake. It caused so much chaos for everyone here, and just because of how close you are, it will bring out that type of issue. Jake Pullen's your leader with Dylan Alt in second, and Dalt's trying to get his first win of the season. We're under caution number 2. This is actually the first real caution. Our first caution of the day was a competition caution. We're going to take a quick commercial break. We'll be back right after this. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the FTF Grand National Series, sponsored by, what are we sponsored by, Seth, again?
Flash and Go Graphics.
That's right. We are under caution number 2 today. Our first one was competition caution. This is our first flank caution that was brought out after a caution and a wreck happened entering corner number 1. We're about to get going green once again. The cars are stacked up, getting ready to go green again as they climb up the hill.
And Jake Poulin, as we know, is 4 laps shorter on fuel than everybody else. As he climbs the hill, Dylan Alt will be to his driver's right for this restart.
And green flag back out into the air, and Jake Poulin going to be trying to hold everyone else off, but we saw it's always the chaos of cars coming down into turn number 1.
It was about the 8th position. They stacked up. Ryan Mercurio tried to get to the inside of somebody, couldn't do it. We're going to go almost 3 wide there as Brandon Hawken to the inside of Blake Reynolds. That's going to be for 5th.
Our leaders get through the corner well. It's all the action behind us that, and looking based off our intervals, they made it out cleanly.
They did indeed, as Dylan Alt goes to the point, and now we got to make sure they get through this treacherous left-hand turn 5 as they are double wide in several portions of the field from 10th all the way on back.
And we're up on board with Michael Cozy Jr. and see what he sees as we're coming into turn number 5. This is one of the most heavy braking zone areas, and it looks like our cameras actually just decided not to work for a second there. Excuses for that little technical difficulties there. But back underway up front is Dylan Alt. That is up front for me. Is that correct for you?
That is correct. Dylan Alt has taken the race lead. We actually did have an incident back in turn 5. David Shieldhouse had some problems, and then they really stacked up behind him. There were a couple of cars that were facing the wrong way. I'm surprised that didn't bring out a yellow, as I believe Nate Stewart in the 13 got spun around the wrong way. There was another car that was also facing the wrong way, and I think that was the 20 of Shieldhouse again. So he's actually had 2 moments going into turn 5.
And Shieldhouse was doing quite well, running in the middle of the pack, trying to get back up front, and then with this chaos, not doing so well. Right now, Montville Grouse, who we saw right before that competition caution, went off into the dirt, had some issues with that 91 machine. Right now, running 12th, trying to get by the 21 machine.
Trying to fight his way back up to the front, which is easier said than done when it's a road course, because you have to pick your moments carefully. You have to, in most cases, wait until the car ahead of you either slows up or makes a mistake before you pounce and try and take that position away.
And able to do so. Now moving up to 11, but we're going to move back up to our leaders and see if Derek Justice is slowly inching his way closer and closer to the 40 machine of Dylan Alt.
The 11 of Ethan Murky may have had an almost off-course experience off turn 14, lost a lot of momentum coming up the uphill, but I don't think he completely went off course.
And we're going to see on this hood view that right now Derek Justice running about...
Oh, we got a wreck, I'm sorry, in turn 1. There are several cars around back there. Casey Nemitz is spun in the 03. The 12 of Gary Waterworth is back there. There were a couple of other drivers that nearly spun trying to avoid.
It looks like Michael Frisch also heavily involved here as the drivers are getting back onto course. There's a lot of machines here. There you see Shieldhouse coming, trying the inside of the 48, not able to do so just yet, still lingering behind.
Michael Frisch very lucky that he has that win in the bank back at Lucas Oil that locked him into the playoffs, as that car had a lot of right front damage.
And we're moving back up front as looks like Alt actually... the drivers slowed down a bit. I think that might have caused out a caution.
You do have a caution. It has been called by race control, so the yellow flag is out. I'm assuming it was for the turn 1 incident with Frisch, Waterworth, and Casey Nemitz.
Yeah, that was what brought out that caution coming through turn number 1 that we saw there. We saw the after, and it's just a ton of chaos back there. And, you know, that just happens when you have so many cars grouped up into one area and not able to make space for one another in such a heavy braking zone where everyone has their own spot that they like to slow down at.
I want to go back here real quickly to Jake Poulin. We recalled he came to pit road about 4 laps before everybody else did when the competition caution was thrown. With these pacing laps, I would have to assume that he's going to be able to save anywhere from 1 to 2 laps. So I would think with these two called cautions that we've had, he would be right on the mark to be able to make it the rest of the way. And this strategy is actually going to work out for him, depending on if he can keep his car where he is right now, because he was running back outside of the top 20 when he made the call to come to pit road. So maybe a bit of a net gain strategy here. He may not win the race, but he's certainly going to finish a lot better than where he would have been back when he came to pit road.
Oh, it's a complete net gain. And looking at the drivers and the lap times that are being run, right now, Jake Poulin would be marked around the area that he's in right now, in that 7th, 8th position. And right now, running 6th, he's doing fantastic for the different strategy that he threw out that really has given him such a great net gain.
Dylan Alt out in front. We should highlight some of the drivers where they are as far as down near the bottom of the playoff standings, because if Alt wins, he's in. He leapfrogs and someone gets eliminated. The two guys right now that need to be worried are Ryan Naraki in the 02 and Sean Butler in the 35. Both those drivers separated by 10 points coming to this race. Butler would be the cutoff line driver. Right now, he is in the 13th position. Ryan Araki, who's only 10 points ahead of him right now, 2 positions behind him in 15th place. So I guarantee you, Butler and Ryan Araki, they are the biggest Derek Justice, Blake Reynolds, Brandon Hawk, and Michael Cozy Jr. fans.
And here comes the 40, the 31, and it looks like we've got a couple of machines staying out, but a lot of the field coming in right now, and it looks like Blake Reynolds might be the first car to stay out, and it was not planned for him to stay out.
Don't think this is a fuel strategy call. I think all these drivers were good to make it. This says to me, you alluded to the track temperature coming into this race, and it's actually gone down just a little bit. It's down to 93, but that's still an awfully blistering road course temperature. This says to me these drivers are coming to pit road hoping that maybe if we settle into a long run, they're going to have a tire grip advantage.
Yeah, these drivers have been out for anywhere from 5 to 6 laps on these tires. So coming in and getting the tires, a huge advantage compared to the other machines that maybe aren't going to have a better tire run later on in this race. And we always bring up last night's race that we were doing, and that last night, I gotta say, the drivers that were able to save their tires were able to make a huge comeback on machines that had a better short run package that was going on. So it's gonna be interesting to see people that are able to conserve their tires and those that decide I need to get as far ahead as possible.
The other thing, though, too, for those drivers that come down pit road, yes, they gain in terms of the tires that they put onto their race cars, but we saw in last night's event a driver that was running second for most of the first half of the race end up getting a black flag and have to EOL and had to spend the second half of the race working his way up to a third place finish. So these drivers have to be careful about that, especially with the fact that we're in a 40-car field, and with that caution coming out, we've got, I believe, 37 of them on the lead lap. So that is a huge EOL penalty if you get caught speeding on pit road.
A major one. You have to make sure that you don't get caught up with that EOL penalty, because of how many drivers we have racing here tonight, it is going to be very difficult to get through the field, and we've already seen in the back of the field having so many issues once you get so clustered up into these tight, hard braking zones.
Well, Dylan Alt was the first one down, first one off of pit road. He is going to be restarting back in the 11th position. 10 drivers elected not to come to pit lane under this caution. Blake Reynolds, Brandon Hawken, Brian Mercurio, they've been some of our front runners today. Evan Rice, last week's winner, Seth DeMerchant, they stayed out. That's the top 5, followed by Evan Brinker, Justin Malello, Kane Cook, Benjamin Fanning, who got the free pass 2 cautions ago, and Rich Jameson. So these drivers have been out there anywhere from 3 to 6 laps on the set of tires they've got.
Well, as we're running around, getting closer and closer to the halfway marker, I gotta say, it's been interesting to see. We were green for that whole entire first section before the competition caution came out at lap 6. Ever since then, though, it has been difficult for a lot of these machines that feel like they have that urgency that they need to get up front as fast as possible.
You know what really surprises me too is because we've seen a couple of areas back on that first run where, knowing now that they are doing admin called yellows, that I probably would have seen a yellow flag being thrown then. We're seeing the yellow flags a little bit more frequent now for 2 or 3 car incidents when we had about a 5 car incident over in turn 5 on the first lap of this race. So it'll be very interesting to see in the remainder of this race when the admins decide to throw a caution or not, what is going to be deemed caution worthy, and whether or not these drivers up here at the front, of course, the new tires of Dylan Alt, if he's going to have any green flag laps to be able to take advantage of the fresh rubber he just got.
I think for all these drivers, the car that they are most worried about has to be the 41 machine of Mercurio. Brandon Mercurio has been the most aggressive driver here on these restarts, who's just been trying to get as many positions as he can. But once he gets going, probably one of the fastest cars out here on track.
He's been the first car in a 3-wide formation heading onto the front straightaway at the drop of the green flag in the last 2 restarts. He went around the grass lane. Yep, there's apparently a grass lane, a 3rd lane going into turn 1. He took that on the restart before last, and on the last restart, he attempted to duck it to the inside 3-wide when they got to the start-finish line. So you're absolutely right. That bright green 41, he's very easy to see on track, but he has been making some pretty aggressive moves when the green flag drops.
And these drivers are coming around the last couple of bends before we get green once again. And when we get green, it's going to be 17 laps to go. And we've seen cars go 17 laps here on a stint. It's going to be interesting to see who is going to be those cars that can save their tires and possibly make a hard charge to our leaders in the later run. Or if we're just going to see a lot of drivers just pulling away from everyone else.
Yeah, you're right, because obviously Blake Reynolds races in the NASCAR iRacing Coca-Cola series, so he knows something about tire conservation, and I've raced with Brandon Hawken over on the NR Sim. He is a king at tire conservation, so 2 guys here are going to be seeing if they can save their stuff, whereas Dylan Alt, Derek Justice, and others, they're going to be in full send mode trying to drive their way up through the field.
It's going to be Blake Reynolds, Brandon Hawkins, your front row as we go back to green here with 17 laps to go.
Let's see if they can make it through turn 1 again. So far, they've been able to with fairly minimal incidents. Drivers fanning out. Then I believe that back there 3-wide move is Dylan Alt in the 40 trying to take advantage of those fresh tires.
Yeah, all the drivers able to get through the corners cleanly so far. And honestly, got to keep our eyes on the back path because you know that they've been having some issues so far, and it's just been a hornet's nest back there. But so far, our top 4 feeling pretty clean. It's when you get to about 5th place when everyone is kind of side by side still.
Yeah, they're about 3 wide heading down here towards turn 5. That's Evan Brinker, Kane Cook, and I believe that's Rich Jameson in this mix as well. Derek Justice right now, the highest running of the drivers that was on pit road. He managed to get around Dylan Alt.
And so far, watching this battle for 5th still going on, and it looks like the 21 almost dumped it off of the course. Able to keep it on, though.
That the Merchant actually got his right side tires off the racing surface, and you wouldn't think it, but that rumble strip up at the top of the uphill turn 6 has actually been an issue for drivers in the past as well.
Car I'm going to have my eyes on is Derek Justice in the 31, as well as Dylan Alt. These guys are on the freshest tires so far. They've owned anywhere from 5 to 6 lap better tires than the cars in front of them. We'll see if tires are going to be that important so far.
They're going to have to be patient as well, because with the worn tires ahead of them, drivers are going to be braking a little bit earlier going into the corners, hoping the brakes will take. The guys on the fresher tires will be able to drive it into the corners maybe a little bit deeper, brake a little bit later. You saw the closing rate right there. Derek Justice up to the back bumper of Kane Cook as they headed into turn 7.
Yeah, that's just one of those heavy braking zones that you kind of have to be nervous about. If there's an opening, most drivers will take it to try to get under another machine. So far, all the action, these drivers have been staying pretty clean compared to the last couple of cautions.
Ooh, Dylan Alt with a near moment off of turn 14. He nearly looped it around. His car was headed for the pit road entrance. He was so far askewed. He's going to lose a couple spots to Michael Cozy Jr. and Philip Kraus, but fortunately was able to straighten that thing out.
Yeah, Philip Kraus now up to back into the top 10. He was running up front with our top 4 earlier on and got caught up into overdriving it into a couple of corners. But okay, you can see up here from 6th on back, it is all the hornet's nest of drivers trying to get forward, but they're all stuck side by side, so it's making a wall for faster machines where they're not able to make any passes.
number 21 Sprite Chevrolet of Evan Brinker is getting absolutely eaten up with his older tires. He had to hit the brakes hard going into turn 1. That allowed Kane Cook to pass him, and now he's been passed by another 5-6 cars heading here into turn 5. So that 21, the call to stay out, has not worked to his favors. We got a car off course back there in turn 5. That's the 35 of Sean Butler. He didn't spin it, but he went off into the sand trap. He'll merge back onto the track around the 19th position.
Yeah, coming around turn number 6 and back out there for the 35 machine as we'll bring our cameras back up front where Derek Justice is trying to get by the 59 machine and looking like he might be able to. Also getting pushed by the 91, going 3 wide almost there for a second.
We had another driver have an issue further back in the field. Benjamin Fanning went off course back in turn 6. He has returned back to the racing surface as well. As up at the front right now, you've got, it looks like for the moment, everybody pretty well settled out until, as you mentioned, you get back to around that 8th, 9th, 10th position. And Brandon Hawken has been able to take the lead away from Blake Reynolds. So Reynolds, who led us back to green, all of a sudden has fallen back into the 3rd spot, also being passed by Brian Mercurio.
Yeah, this 3 machine, just maybe he only has that short run speed, or there had to be some type of issue that happened to the 3 machine. But also, Brandon Hawken, that last lap, ran one of his fastest laps of the race. So that 89 machine is cruising right now in the lead, but he also got a hard charging 41 machine of Brandon Mercurio.
Exchange just moments ago for 8th place. Philip Kraus back up into the top 10 for the first time since his near moment going into the downhill section of turn 8 back on the first lap. He just got around Seth DeMerchant. And right now, Michael Cozy Jr. is actually the highest running of the drivers that was on pit road in the last caution. He's up to 6th, just got around Derek Justice a couple of corners ago. And
now has his sights on Kane Cook, and Kane Cook's on those older tires as well, so he's got to be watching out for the machine behind him.
I was kind of wondering about some of these other guys back here that had some early struggles, if we'd see them be able to move their way back up to the front. The one that right now has done a great job of making a comeback is the one of Dylan Smith. Saw him around over in Canada Corner under that first 6-lap green flag run. He has been able to work his way now up to the 13th position.
Yeah, Dylan Smith with a very colorful machine, easy to point out whenever he's around other cars. That one, and right now up to 13th, a great run for him. And Jake Poulin, who did pit on that last restart, he's back there at 14th. So deciding, hey, it's better to get tires now than to try to continue to push on with that alternate strategy that possibly could have worked out if we stayed green.
Now, we definitely have some battles all through the field right now, but for the most part, it's basically a 1 versus 1 battle in all of those situations. So we've been able to go at least about a lap and a half now without anybody running into any kind of incidents or going off course. So we'll see if this is going to set the tone for the rest of the race. We know that everybody can make it the rest of the way on fuel. It's all going to come down to tire conservation. As soon as I say that, somebody's in trouble up there going through. I believe that was Kettle Bottoms. And I think that was the 59 of Seth DeMerchant who got off course, and now he nearly loops it around going into Canada Corner.
Yeah, DeMerchant back here, and with them going off course, it's actually closed in the gap.
Gracious, he's drifting through the corners.
DeMerchant might actually have an issue with that machine because he's still squirrely trying to hold on to that 59 machine, and you spin this car out. And let's take a quick look at the track temp, because it might have heated up a little bit. It's gone down just a tad, but once you start spinning those tires and getting loose, it is difficult to pull those tires off and save that machine. So far, DeMerchant doing a decent job back there in 12th, but could be losing even more positions now with the one right behind him.
Yeah, that car was kind of skewed off to the right, and he's drifting it again out of turn 1. I'm not certain if maybe he used up his stuff or something. He was, let's document, one of the drivers that did stay out under the last caution. So he is out there on about 9-lap older tires. But the thing that kind of really confused me was he was on what is typically kind of a straightaway there going through Kettle Bottoms. There's not a whole lot of twists and turns there between the kink and the Canada Corner. And that car seemed to be skewed to the left. So I was really confused if maybe a mechanical problem was going on there with that 59 or not.
It just looks like he's just drifting out of most corners, which is making it look skewed compared to everyone else's car. And he's been out there for 9 laps. That's the same that our top 4 have been on so far, and they're still trying to hold off all their machines, but right now Michael Cozy Jr. in the 99 just got to the back bumper of Evan Rice, and Rice is about 3 seconds behind our top 3.
Yeah, Michael Cozy Jr., as mentioned, is the highest driver on the freshest tires. He's been out there for 4 laps. The 4 drivers ahead of him have been out there for 9 laps. And Philip Kraus may be the fastest car on the track right now of our drivers up inside of the top 7, because he has worked his way since we last looked from 11th up to 6th.
And also Dylan Holt right now in 9th place, right behind Derek Justice and that crew of machines, behind the long line and trying to push forward and get in front of these machines, but he's got 2 cars side by side in front of him. That's going to be Kane Cook as well as Derek Justice.
A little bit further back, you've got a couple of drivers that we haven't really talked about that maybe we should. How about the 26 of Kevin McAdams having a great run right now? McAdams is another driver that kind of fits the same situation we talked about with Cosmin Ishinoshu, Kyle Riley, Dylan Holt. He right now needs to win his way into the playoffs. He is the 5th driver outside of the cutoff line coming into this race.
Yeah, and right now running 11th, it's looking difficult for the 26 machine to get a win here unless we see something drastic happen for our leaders where they get taken out at some point.
Drivers had early issues here and have been able to salvage something. Michael Frisch, our winner from Lucas Oil, it still has that right front damage after we saw he got involved in an incident here in turn 1. He is still running, but he is in the 18th position. So certainly, it's interesting too because of the fact that we've got about 40 drivers that took the green flag. A lot of drivers, when they take the green, their goal is to finish up inside of the top 10, top 5, and obviously to get the win. But I think for some of these guys with damaged goods in a 40-car field, they wouldn't be too disappointed finishing this race inside the top 20.
And then behind Frisch, you got Andrew Schwartz in that 67 machine, who's been making some passes on Kyle Riley and as well for the 86. So that machine now up into the top 20. A great rebound for him starting off in pit road at the start of this race. So back in 43rd position, up to 19th. A great run for this 67.
When that last caution came out, 10 drivers decided to stay out. The furthest back of those is now Rich Jameson back in 21st, but a lot of them have been able to maintain their track position. Hawken, Mercurio, Reynolds, and Rice, they're the top 4. You've got Kane Cook up there in 9th, Evan Brinker still in 11th. So despite the fact that they've got about a 4 to 5 lap difference between their tires and the other guys behind them, they've done a pretty good job of maintaining track position.
Right now, we're on board with Michael Cozy Jr. as he's now got to the back bumper of Evan Rice, trying to get by this 98 machine is the 99.
He may momentarily be getting up here closer to the 41 of Brian Mercurio, who had a moment off Canada corner, ran it a little bit wide, and subsequently lost the 2nd position to Blake Reynolds.
And Rice is going to watch the 99 machine get by, but also here comes Phil Kraus and that 91 machine, who's just been cruising along and really has been making a huge marker on everyone else.
Yeah, Derek Justice, we've talked to him before at the other broadcasts we've done at the road courses of Spa and Montreal, and he has said that road courses are not his strong suit. He just wants to get out of there surviving with a decent finish, and he's been doing that here today. Been up in the top 5 for the first half, and right now currently in the 8th position as we had a car off course there getting out of the way of the leaders. I think that might have possibly been maybe the 63 of Ryan Pandicio, as he had a moment off of turn 2.
And it's going to be Kraus now setting up Michael Cozy Jr. to make the pass for 4th place. And now these drivers need to reset because they are almost 6 seconds back from Brandon Mercurio. And then Mercurio is about almost 8 seconds back from Brandon Hawken and Blake Reynolds. And it's looking like Hawkins with a 1 second lead, looking good and feeling good, as Blake Reynolds that got by Mercurio and now is just cruising and really dwindling away at this lead.
Obviously we've alluded to Spa earlier on in the season, and a thing that Spa is very similar to Road America with is the fact that there's not a whole lot of passing zones. And I remember back at Spa when Blake Reynolds was trying to get Brandon Hawkins in that race, Hawkins was running the line. He wanted to run, was forcing Blake Reynolds to do something different. It's going to be the same situation here today between those two as Mercurio gets off course again there through Kettle Bottoms, and it's going to lose more ground to this top 2. But Blake Reynolds, he is charging. He was about maybe a second and a half back. He is now less than 0.5 of a second coming here off of Canada Corner.
It looks like Blake Reynolds is trying to gain closer and closer. I've got my eyes set on this battle for 6th place. You've got about 4 cars all right here, ready to make a pass at any moment here on Evan Rice, he's kind of a sitting duck at the moment with all the cars that have pressure tires.
He definitely is, and it's in these heavy braking zones where your heart kind of jumps into your throat because you know Evan Rice is not going to be able to brake as late into the corner as somebody like Dylan Alt or Derek Justice, and we nearly saw Dylan Alt into the back bumper of the 98 car.
Derek Justice into the pits. Maybe feels like he can't make it to the end. But that 3 machine is running into the pits right now.
Yeah, that's actually Blake Reynolds, and that's from the 2nd position. So this really surprises me because I thought for absolute certain everybody was going to be able to make it the rest of the way when they all came to pit road back under that. I think it was our first official caution after the competition caution.
Well, we thought maybe they could make it all the way to the end, but maybe Blake Reynolds feels otherwise. That was going to be about 23 laps to 24 laps that these drivers were going to have to run. The 3 machine felt like it wasn't enough. Going to take a full set of 4 tires and back and full of fuel. Is going to be back in 22nd position.
And we have another driver that just hit pit road as well, back in the 28th position. That was Seth DeMerchant, who was another of the drivers that decided to stay out under the last caution. So if you're Brandon Hawken, if you're Brian Mercurio, Evan Rice, Kane Cook, Evan Brinker, these guys might be having to be on pit road somewhere in the next 3 laps or so.
Well, the change could be the fact that the fuel, the full capacity that these drivers could hold might be lower than what we were seeing last night at the other league that we were broadcasting. So that could be the difference here for these drivers on why they feel like they were not able to make it all the way to the end.
Yeah, you could be absolutely right. Might possibly have been the fact that those 10 drivers we saw stay out felt since we had been under 2 quick admin called cautions, we may see a couple more of them and they'd have been able to maintain their track position. But now the question is, since they are at about a 5 to 6 lap deficit to the other drivers around them, those other drivers that were just on pit road under the last caution, will they be able to make it the rest of the way?
It's a solid question to keep throwing out and trying to see when it will happen. Right now, on board with Kane Cook, who's trying to get by Evan Rice, and looks like we'll be able to get it done here coming around the last couple of corners. But they stay side by side coming up the hill.
And they're going to have to get this thing settled out before they get into turn 1, because the grip they had on the initial start of this restart is not the grip they're going to have going down here into turn 1 this time.
Mercurio now going to be coming in that 41 machine, giving away 2nd position, and now in 2nd place is going to be Philip Krause. And then you got Michael Cozy Jr., Dylan Olt, and Derek Justice. They're all within a couple of seconds of one another.
Right now, Brandon Hawken is the measuring stick. We're going to see how far he can go. If he can make it as far as about 6 laps to go before he has to come to pit road, guys back there like Krause, Cozy, Alt, Justice might be able to save just enough to be able to make it to the checkered flag.
And we're watching now Derek Justice coming in. He's about 0.3 of a second off of the 40 machine, and trying everything he can here to get by him right on the bumper of the 40 there.
Just to update as well, some other drivers that have taken their cars back behind the wall. Nate Stewart, who hosted tonight's race for the Animation Domination race, he is out in 37th. Chris Wetz is retired in 38th. Warren Keith in 39th. Right now, Cosmin Shinoshu is not officially out of the race. However, he has been sitting on pit road for the last 14 laps or so. Looks like he will get officially scored in 40th place here tonight. So that gives us a total right now of 7 cars in the garage area.
Looking at lap times, it looks like Krause is running about 0.4 faster than Hawkins, but the problem is he's 7.5 seconds back from the 91. So Hawkins has that gap on 2nd place by a large margin, and then you look back to 3rd place where you got a 3-horse battle there with you got Michael Cozy Jr. trying to hold off Dylan Olt and Derek Justice.
The first thing and first time today, Brandon Hawken is going to have to deal with potential slower traffic here That is the 53 of Justin Malello, who is right now the last car on the lead lap, and just up ahead of him is the 59 of Seth DeMerchant. Both those drivers were on pit road just a couple of laps ago, and I think we've had a couple more takers hit pit lane. I think the 63 of Ryan Panvicio has just now hit pit road, and now Evan Rice is going to hit pit lane in the 98.
Evan Rice, after being passed by Kane Cook, decides it's time to pull it in. We're going to be bringing our camera back up to this battle for third place. That, Dylan Holt feeling a lot better up here, but they were all chasing Philip Kraus, and if Kraus can make it to the end, it looks like this could be his race. But Holt is, and also Cozy Jr., these guys are just about a second, almost a second and a half off of the 91 machine.
And the question is right now, as we're watching these drivers battle each other, how much fuel can they possibly be saving while racing nose to tail? I mean, as I mentioned, if Hawken can make it to about 6 laps to go, then these guys might be able to save enough to make it to the end, but they have to start saving. And right now, it doesn't look like any of them right now are currently in save mode.
It does not look so, and you saw there on the screen lap car letting these drivers going by. That was not a lead lap machine that was stopped there. So exactly remember who that was that they passed.
I think it might have been the 52 of Benjamin Fanning, but I'm not certain.
But these guys still right on top of one another, and it looks like Derek Justice is the one that has the fastest car out of this group of 3 right here. Just doesn't have the right place and doesn't catch the 40 machine at the right time to make any type of a pass.
And as these guys battle amongst themselves, they're actually going to allow Philip Kraus to start pulling away. And as we mentioned, this could be potentially the battle for the win if these 4 drivers can make it the rest of the way on fuel. So for the moment, I think they have to kind of set aside their differences and stop battling each other and focus on just turning down lap times that's going to bring them back to the bumper of that 91.
And as these guys are battling it up, we're actually going to take a look back at a different battle that's starting to heat up. That's Evan Brinker right on the back bumper of Kevin McAdams, and Brinker is on the same fuel and tire strategy as our leader, Brandon Hawken, on those 14-lap old tires and fuel. His 21 machine's had an eventful day, been off course a couple of times, running 8th at the moment and having a pretty good run, running a little bit faster than the car in front.
And here comes Brinker to pit road, and so of the 10 drivers that stayed out under the last caution, only 3 more cars are left to come to pit lane.
Jake Poulin feeling like he can't make it all the way to the end with that double zero pulling into the pits, and others following suit.
It's the 52 of Benjamin Fanning, who just got put a lap down moments ago, and so right now the only 3 drivers that we still have yet to see on pit lane here that stayed out under the last caution: race leader Brandon Hawking, also Kane Cook, who's in 6th, and the 86 of Rich Jameson, who right now is back in the 25th position.
Yeah, Rich Jameson actually is on a different fuel run than everyone else on track, as he came in about 3 laps later than Brandon Hawken and the rest that are still out there on the oldest of tires and fuel.
Someone slipped under the radar for me. I don't know if he did for you, but Brian Mercurio made a pit stop 2 laps ago. I didn't know the 41 had pitted yet.
I believe we did mark that, but yeah, he came in about 4 or 5 laps ago for the 41 machine. And Dylan Holt slips up a little bit, giving the position to Derek Justice for 4th place.
Couple more drivers on pit road. Rich Jameson finally coming to pit lane. Roswell Harlow on pit road as well, but we're still waiting to see about this 89 of Brandon Hawken.
And right now, Derek Justice looks like he's got a car that's a little bit more stable than Michael Cozy Jr. for this 3rd place position. And these guys, they've been right on top of each other since we last went green. It's been fun racing to watch. Other really close packs that's going on, that's back where Mercurio is, where you've got yourselves David Shieldhouse, Kyle Riley, and Sean Butler all on top of one another.
Yeah, Brian Mercurio, despite coming to pit road, he is only fallen back to 13th place. And we saw this last night, too, where drivers that came to pit road up inside of the top 3 to top 5, because the field is so spread out, they would still come out sometimes even inside of the top 10 still in the running order after making a 4-tire pit stop.
Car that went off track into the pits, it's going to be the 82 machine who went out into the gravel pit for a second. Able to get back on track, but losing a couple positions there.
Going to be Tristan Hagenstein. He's now back to 23rd place. And you mentioned about that battle behind Brian Mercurio. It is still hot and heavy. You've got David Shieldhouse in 14th, Kyle Riley in 15th, Sean Butler in 16th. All these drivers were last on pit road about 10 laps ago.
You go 5 seconds or a little bit 4.5 seconds back, that's when you'll be seeing other drivers right on top of one another with the 1, the double, the 02, as well as the 98, all right on top of one another, trying to get by. It looks like Ryan Naraki.
Yeah, with Ryan Naraki and Dylan Smith on old tires trying to hold off Evan Rice and Evan Brinker, who were just on pit road the last time around. I believe that we currently have 30 cars on the lead lap, the last of those being the 59 of Sean DeMerchant, and he is just a couple of corners, maybe a corner and a half away from being put a lap down here as well.
Oh no, Sean Butler going to be going off on track a little bit here, and that's going to be in front of another group that he is going to be coming back onto track 4. Might be losing more positions than just one as there they come by, the 1 and the 98.
Your car gets off course, those tires spin in the grass, and that loses you so much momentum as he got his right rear into the grass. They're going into turn 5, so a couple of
oh no, Evan
corners.
Rice around in front of other machines, and that's going to be the 1 and collected, and might be others.
And they are not going to throw a caution because everybody was able to get it going again, but the biggest loser on that was, as you alluded to, Dylan Smith had to come to a stop and wait until Evan Rice got his car turned back around.
How these guys are going to be trying to get back underway and back under action, and Evan Rice just came in way too hot into turn number 5, and I think a little bit too confident with those fresher tires, feeling like he could drive right through that corner. You got to realize that these machines are still so heavy, you can't just take every corner like you can take any other ones out there. But Seth, we've been out here for a while with these tires and fuel for Brandon Hawking. With 7 laps to go, it's going to be tempting to say that he can make it, but it's going to be close with all the drivers that have come in already.
Well, if he can make it, it's a moot point because Philip Kraus is on the same straightaway as he is, and he's got 5-lap fresher tires. So even if Brandon Hawkins can make it the rest of the way, there is no way that he's going to be crossing the line first with the pace that 91 is setting.
Well, you also got to think, maybe Hawkins has just been saving fuel this whole entire time, because that gap was almost 8 seconds, now down to less than a second and a half. So all that time, this 89, I should say, has been trying to save fuel during all this run, has been backing down that pace by almost 2 seconds.
Yeah, but how much can you save here is the question. I mean, obviously his pace has been back down, and the 91 has been able to reel him in, but I don't know if he's even, if the 91 gets to his back bumper and Hawkins decides, all right, you know, it's time to turn up the heat and try to see if I can pull away, I still don't think he's got enough in the tank because he is one of 2 drivers that stayed out under the last caution that has not pitted. 8 of the 10 drivers that stayed out under that caution have come to pit road, so I don't see how it's even possible for him to be able to save, you know, maybe a maximum of 4 laps here with the pace that we've been running and the number of braking zones that we've got here at this track.
Question to ask, though, is it even possible for Blake Reynolds to come back? He is running up anywhere from 3 to our leader now, about 5 seconds faster than everyone else, and he, at the time that I was looking, he was about 16 seconds away from everyone. Does he have enough time, with us coming to 5 laps to go, to run everyone else down? Because it's going to be close.
Yeah, he might have enough time, but he's got a lot of cars to pass before he gets up to that point. The cars that are up ahead of him, he's got about 7 to 11 lap fresher tires, but it's all going to depend on where he catches those cars, in what corners, whether it's on a straightaway, and how quickly he can make the passes around them, because we're coming to 5 laps to go.
Yeah, 5 laps to go, and it's going to be extremely close as everyone is slowly gaining up, but Philip Kraus, as you can see, he is less than a half a second and is right there and could be possibly making this pass in the next couple of corners.
Philip Kraus came into this race the first driver outside of the cutoff line because Brandon Hawken in the last couple of weeks, as he's going to go to the inside of Hawken, but because Hawken in the last couple of weeks was able to work his way up into the top 25, a former winner this season, Kraus got eliminated out. So this would be an opportunity for him to kick his way back in, as he is going to take the spot from Brandon Hawken. Hawken can do nothing.
Absolutely nothing about that as Kraus is going to get by, and it looks like that is the one machine, a lap car behind our leaders, but just came out of the pits. It's going to be Dylan Smith, who's going to be trying to get by everyone on those fresher tires compared to everyone else.
Smith was having a good run before he had to come to pit lane. I think they may have done a little bit of damage repair on his machine because he spent about 57 seconds in his pit stall. I think it was an unscheduled call to pit road for him. That's a tough break. As you mentioned, he's now a lap down, and currently the first car 1 lap down in the 28th position. If he can get around the 91, he'd be getting his lap back the hard way.
Yeah, I mean, that one machine was involved with the Evan Rice incident and ran into Rice, so that is why he had to come into the pits as Dylan Holt is going to be right on the back bumper of 31 of Justice and almost making contact. And with this lap machine, it has actually brought all 4 machines right on top of one another.
I was just going to say, it was a 1v1 battle between the 91 of Kraus and the 89 of Hawken. All of a sudden, here comes Derek Justice and Dylan Alt, and Kraus! What just happened to the 91?
He got loose off of the corner and just dumped it into the inside wall. That 91 machine is done. I don't know how he's running without a blown engine, but how much damage he just took. That 91 machine is out of the running for the win and possibly could be out of the running of a top 10 finish.
And look at this. This is a battle for the lead as Dylan Alt just moved Derek Justice out of the way. More contact here through Kettle Bottoms. They are door banging.
And they are going to continue to push forward as they're still banging off one another. And right now, Hawkins getting the best view of these two just bouncing back and forth on one another as Justice bumps them, and here comes Hawkins on the inside.
Let's not forget that Brandon Hawken, when he took that checkered flag back at Spa, it was on fuel strategy as well. So if he is able to make it these final 5 laps, good on him. But right now, you're right. He's got a front row seat of what's going on ahead of him. Dylan Alt, his playoffs may be on the line right here against Derek Justice, a 7-time winner this season.
Justice wasn't able to get through corner number 1 exit as well as Alt did, but coming down into corner number 3 is gonna be difficult for this 31 machine, as slowly but surely able to get through that corner cleanly, and it looks like Hawken has to try to save more fuel here as he is still backing down on his pace.
And I want to go all the way back to lap 6. Dylan Alt decided to come to pit road from the race lead, restarted in 11th. It has taken him 19 laps to work his way back up to the front of the field.
This is giving me shades of Spa all over again, as that time it was Hawken leading, and then it was, I believe at that time, that's the 48 machine who's a lap down off course coming back. But that was in Spa, that was Blake Reynolds who continued to ram his bumper onto the back end of Hawkins at Spa, and honestly damaged that engine to where he couldn't finish the race in second anymore, actually finished third. So Justice has to be careful not to continue ramming as hard as he is, as that could honestly ruin his rest of his race.
Absolutely, but I think if you're Derek Justice right now, you know, he's been running well at the road courses, but he hasn't exactly been a front runner, a guy that we have singled out as a favorite to take a checkered flag, whether it be at Spa, whether it be at Montreal. I think he's trying to kind of quell the doubters. He said he's not that great at the road courses, but I think here today, he's got 7 wins in the bank. He's got playoff points dangling in front of him in the form of bypassing this 40 machine. He's, I think, going to be willing to take that risk.
Seth, after that contact that we were Justice around! And Justin's going to come back onto the track here, going to be trying to move forward, and there is Blake Reynolds, who I was just about to bring up. He is right now 5.5 seconds off from our leader as we are coming to 3 laps to go. He is cut down on this lead, and that little altercation that Alt was having with Kraus and Hawkins as well as Derek Justice, it is demolished that gap that Blake Reynolds had, as now he is trying so hard to run down our leaders, and he's running about 4 seconds faster than our leaders right now.
Well, if you're Dylan Alt, now your path is clear. You have to focus on hitting your marks, because you have to manage that gap between yourself and Blake Reynolds. You know that Blake Reynolds is going to chip away at it, but you've got 3 more circuits to make around this racetrack, and you got to hope that your lap times are going to be quick enough that you're going to keep that 3 car at bay. Brandon Hawkins not going to be an issue. Derek Justice spinning out back there is not going to be an issue. You have to manage the gap between yourself and the 3. You have to worry about yourself and yourself only right now.
And that's all he needs to focus, and right now doing a great job rebounding from those little instances. As right now I'm watching Derek Justice trying to get by Kraus, and looks like he'll be able to get that done. Not able to actually get under the 91 in turn number 5. And also here comes Kevin McAdams trying to get a top 5 finish here as that 26 machine right on the back bumper of Derek Justice and Kraus. And also following them is Michael Cozy Jr.
Well, the last driver that was on the same strategy as Brandon Hawken has hit pit road, that being Kane Cook in the 55. So unless Brandon Hawken has been in major save mode, I'm not certain he can make it these final 2.5 laps.
And re-looking at it, I want to say I misspoke. I got a little too excited for some of our leaders, and it's looking like Blake Reynolds, he's getting closer and closer as he's 2 seconds away from second place, but only now 5 seconds away from our leader, and he's cutting it, but he might run up just a little too short here based on the pace that he's running, but he's going to be right in the back bumper of Olt right when we come to the white flag.
Well, you may have gotten excited, but you actually are correct, because that last time by, Blake Reynolds ran 2 seconds faster than Dylan Alt. So if he manages to do that here in these next 2 laps, he is going to be right on the back bumper, probably coming out of Canada Corner on the final lap of Dylan Alt.
It's going to be close, but really the real question is how quick can Blake Reynolds get by Brandon Hawkins? If he stays behind the 89 for too long, it could take away that possible chance that 3 has. And he was the one who was good to make it to the end, but decided to pit early. Felt like that was the better choice for him to get this victory. The 3 machine might have made the move of the day, pitting earlier than everyone else.
Gonna have to wait and see. That last time by, it wasn't as much of a gap closed in by Blake Reynolds. He was about 1 second and 2/10 faster. So now he's going to have to deal with the 89 of Brandon Hawken. That may slow him down just a least little bit. And then after that, it's clean racetrack for that 3 machine. But Dylan Alt, that last time by, a very solid lap for a car that's been out there on 16-lap old tires. We'll see if he can do it again when he comes around to get the white flag. But you can see visibly the gap back there to Blake Reynolds. And if I'm Dylan Alt, do not look in your rearview mirror. Do not even look at your F2 and take a look at the intervals. Just hit your marks, run your race, because if he makes a mistake, he's throwing away this victory.
And now we're going to take a quick look back as action from second to first will heat up. We're going to take a look here at this giant pack of machines from 5th all the way back to about 9th position. I take that back, that's all the way back to 8th position, where we see these cars all clustered up with one another.
Yeah, Michael Cozy Jr. just made a pass on Kevin McAdams on the uphill turn 6, gets into the back of Philip Kraus and nearly goes around there. And just behind them, you've got a great run here for Michael Frisch and Andrew Schwartz. We talked about the struggles they've had today. Schwartz started from pit road. Michael Frisch had an incident back in turn 1 at the midway point of this race. Both those drivers look like they're going to get top 10s. And Ryan Williams, I don't think we've talked a whole lot about that 28 car today. He's been very quiet, and sometimes it's the quiet ones you have to watch out for. Looks like he could sneak a top 10, but Brian Mercurio's trying to steal that away here in these final few laps.
Yeah, Mercurio with those 8-lap fresher tires, he's running about 2 seconds faster, so he might be able to steal this 10th place finish away from Ryan Williams. But yeah, we haven't talked about Williams at all during this race, and a great run by this 28 machine so far, running 10th at the moment, and it will have to hold off a hard-charging 41 machine as we're getting closer and closer to the white flag. Speaking of the white flag, here it comes for Dylan Alt.
Tell you what, these last couple of weeks in the FTF Grand National Series have been races of firsts. We saw Michael Frisch get his first win back at Lucas Oil. We saw Brian Mercurio get his first win back at the Daytona Road Course. And even last week, we saw Seth DeMerchant get his first win back at the Oxford Plains. We may be going for 3 races in a row where a driver picks up their first career win, and more importantly for Dylan Alt, a playoff spot would be locked up if he's able to close this deal out.
It's got to be huge for this 40 machine, who really, we've seen it time and time again throughout the whole entire season, having pace, just not the luck to get up front. We'll have to wait and see if just got to continue running these last couple of laps, as there was a car that spun out in front of our 40 machine of our leader Dylan Alt, but got going. I don't know who exactly that was, but right now Alt's feeling comfortable with a 2.8 second gap. It's just the timing that Alt's finally putting down after seeing clean air and able to not really having pressure around him. You just see that he finally is able to hit his rhythm.
The pressure right now is on Blake Reynolds. I saw him that last time out of turn 6 almost go off the rumble strip as Dylan Smith has gone off course there off of turn 8, but Blake Reynolds is being forced to use every bit of the racetrack he can to try and find some speed. I think the gap, 2.5 seconds, just a little too insurmountable, despite him having the fresher tires.
Yeah, I mean, they could see the 40 machine just right there, but it's too far to come in. You gotta wonder, maybe if Reynolds came in a lap sooner, or what ifs are gonna be thrown out, but like Reynolds so far, a great rebound from what pitting earlier than everyone else thought he was. I mean, he came in the last car to really pit from our top runners and putting down a great show so far.
Dylan Alt must have something for odd numbers when it comes to road courses. He was 3rd back at Spa, he was 5th at Montreal, and he's going to finish in an odd number here today, but maybe the best odd number of the season. He's going to be P1 as he heads up the uphill, heading for home here at Road America.
It's going to be Dylan Alt winning here at Road America in that 40 machine, and Blake Reynolds getting 3rd, and Hawkins, there's now no one near him so far. I mean, you can see the 31 behind him, but a 3rd place finish for Brandon Hawkins as he comes across the line, and Derek Justin is able to get 4th.
No correction.
Oh my goodness.
Brandon Hawkins ran out of fuel coming to the line. He lost 3rd place to Derek Justice at the last moment, but somehow he coasts across in the 4th position.
That's when you're hoping that you run out of fuel coming downhill and not uphill. You lose
Where's his pushing buddy, Ryan Pandicio? Because he helped him back at Montreal to cross the line when he ran out of fuel, too.
I think if Hawkins got the win, he might get that push help. But still a solid day for Hawkins, who pushed it the furthest out of any of the other machines. So many cars felt like they weren't going to be able to make it, but Hawkins was able to after completing 22 laps.
Yeah, and finishing top 5, this is going to move Brandon Hawkins up into the top 20 in the point stands. I think he was only 15 points behind 20th in the stands, which was Arnold Columbia, who did not start this race. And why that's important is because if you're in the top 25, you're locked into the larger tracks events. If you're in the top 20, you're locked into the short tracks. So this is going to ensure that Brandon Hawkins is going to be guaranteed in the field for the remaining races of the regular season.
Well, Dylan Holt gets to now trot that 40 machine around the course, and until he gets up front, then he'll start to burn those tires down. I believe some of the drivers are still trying to finish out this race, but we pretty much know where everyone is, so we'll be taking a look at the results as the 40 machine is getting ready to burn those tires down.
Yeah, it's probably the first time in 3 laps he doesn't have to worry about hitting his marks in the corners.
So Dylan Holt's going to be getting the win here today. Blake Reynolds coming in with 2nd. Derek Justice, after Brandon Hawkins running out of fuel, able to sneak that 3rd place finish away from the 89. And 5th place, Scott Michael Cozy Jr. Kevin McAdams and Frisch able to get 6th and 7th. What a great rebounding for them, as well for the 67 of Andrew Schwartz, who started in pit road during this race.
Yeah, absolutely tremendous job by Andrew Schwartz. Had to pass a lot of race cars, not only at the start of this race, but then I think also was towards the rear of the field when we eventually went back green after the competition caution. So I think he may have passed the most cars here today.
And Philip Krause 9th and Brandon Mercurio 10th. Moving ourselves forward. Man, it's been a wild day.
It definitely has, and I'll tell you, I'm looking at some of these names down here that had decent runs here today at Road America, which I think was important for them. You got Philip Krause, who comes into this race, first driver outside of the cutoff line. Kevin McAdams, mentioned, with a top 10 run, finishing 6th. He was the 5th driver outside the cutoff line. I mean, these drivers, yes, they're in a must-win situation to get into the playoffs, but they got to keep their momentum going as well. You know, a DNF can actually really kill the momentum of a driver, and these drivers, being in must-win situations, have to get the best possible finish they can if they're not going to be able to get themselves into victory lane in that week.
Yeah, and honestly, this is the time that you need to start hitting your mark and getting prepared. For some drivers, it's just to get into playoffs. For others, it's getting that momentum for the playoffs so that you can finally feel like you have a championship running machine. And a lot of these guys feeling good about that, with Blake Reynolds getting that 2nd place finish, and also Derek Justice in 3rd.
And you may not think that drivers finishing down just inside the top 20 would be story-worthy, but Sean Butler 18th, Ryan Araki in 20th. Mentioned before that if another driver went to victory lane, those were the 2 guys down near the cut line. Sean Butler 12th of the 12 playoff contenders. With Dylan Alt winning here today, Sean Butler will be heading into next week's race at Watkins Glen outside of the playoffs.
That's just crazy to think about, and just means you got to keep on pushing forward and hope for the best for the next couple of weeks for those drivers. And then you look at our top 30, and a lot of these drivers up here, eventful days for most of them, and you get down here and it's more so of just holding out, because most of the time, most of these drivers were around a lot of the cautions that happened right after our competition caution, and overall some great days for some of these drivers from 21st to 30th.
Yeah, a lot of these guys finished with a lot of damage. There were a lot of hoodless machines out there, but to your point, it was just a matter of trying to run all the laps, or at least be running when the checkered flag waved, try and pick up whatever positions and points you possibly could. I believe Dylan Smith in 31st actually finished out of the race. He pulled his car off of the track in turn 7 and DC'd. And then from, I think it was the 65 on down of Roswell Harlow down to Seth the Merchant and others, those were drivers that officially finished this race in the garage area due to crash damage.
Yeah, and then here are the rest from 41st to 43rd, and some of these drivers, they were hoping for better days, but just luck sometimes isn't in their cards to do so.
Especially
But
when you've got 40 car field at a road course.
yeah, a 43 car field is a lot of machines about out there, and it is Dylan Alt that able to survive and get the win done. We're going to take a quick look and see if we have the drivers at the ready for some interviews.
Yeah, it looks like we do not have our third place finisher, Derek Justice, at the moment, but we do have our second place finisher, Blake Reynolds.
So we'll be bringing Blake Reynolds in, and check out how his day went. Blake Reynolds finishing second, but Blake, how was that run for you at the end after coming into the pits a little bit earlier than later than some of these other guys?
Yeah, I was actually trying to catch the green white checker or a caution there. Try and get another caution, and it didn't end up happening. I know I could have waited. A lot of those other guys waited way longer than I did, but I figured something was just telling me that caution wasn't going to come, so I ended up pitting on 18, I think, with 12 to go. And I was like 4 or 5 seconds faster lap. I did not expect that. That was crazy. I didn't think I would get up to second. I think Derek spun, and that's what happened. That enabled me to get up there. And then Hawken, I think, went off. But other than that, what a crazy race! It was 4-way battle for the lead. I was here in Discord, and then all these different strategies. That was a really cool race, a real classic.
Yeah, Blake, we saw these guys at the start before the competition caution running and staying green until then, and then after the competition caution, we had a couple of those yellows. How was it from that point to stay focused when those cautions were coming out?
I just try and keep focused. Don't get chatting with your buddies in Discord. Don't get chatting with the race chat. I usually try and just kind of stay focused. Usually when I get talking with the Discord and talking to the race chat, we get bantering. I tend to lose focus and lose my pace, or make a really big mistake, kind of like what I did at Daytona Road Course. That's kind of what happened. So I just stayed focused, kept quiet, kind of kept my heart rate down, didn't get too excited. I think that's what really helped me here.
Yeah, Blake, obviously you spent those 2 restarts early on after the competition caution and after the first admin called caution up at the front of the field. A couple of the other ones just started a little bit further back in the second and third rows. Where is it the most nerve-wracking to be on the restarts, knowing that there's about 30 other drivers behind you?
Well, I usually don't get nervous on restarts. I worry about the first turn, but the initial restart I'm not really too worried about. I've done thousands of them at this point, but we ended up doing in our 2003 style restarts tonight where we had to put green in the chat, or the leader did. So that was something new. I haven't done that since I ran NR, and the last time I ran NR was probably like the FTF 500 in 2015. I think I tried to qualify for it, but that was certainly different, and I had to get used to that, just because I'm so used to iRacing rules. So that was a little different, and I kept screwing up my restart. It was a first gear restart, and you had to watch your wheels spin, but everyone else just was able to look at the green and not spin their tires way better than me.
Obviously, you were doing the slipping and sliding with the track conditions here today, and next week we're going to be doubling down on road courses heading to Watkins Glen. So, based on the races that you've run so far this season with the drivers in the field at Spa, at Homestead Road Course, and then I'll be over at Montreal as well, including tonight here at Road America. What's some of the things you've learned that you think you can apply when we get to upstate New York next week?
Well, we all kind of understand the newer version of the road tire model, I think. A lot of the front runners here. This race certainly helped. There was a lot of just like differing tire strats, so you really got to feel the length of the stint of the tire, the sidewall, stuff like that. I probably expect Brandon and Dylan and Derek and I guess Kane, if he qualifies good, to be all up front there, and maybe a couple more. Watkins Glen usually is that road course that all the oval racers are good at, so I'll be looking forward to that.
Well, obviously, Blake, a great run for you here today. You almost closed out the deal there. Maybe if you had another lap, you would have been able to make something out of it there with the 40 machine. But you start on the pole, you finish second, you run up front all day. Great performance here today at Road America. We're going to let you do some shout-outs now.
Sure thing. In the Coke Series, I raced for Team Dillon Esports, and of course I raced the super special cherry vanilla, or no, what paint scheme is that? Cherry zero sugar Coca-Cola. That's what I'm running tonight. I'll thank Kyle Riley and Scuderia Meatball Marinara. Yeah, it's the team I'm on in this league. I think I got that right. And then I'll thank Jake, Kevin, Cosman, Kyle, Adam. I think that's all the admins. All the admins here, and FTF. It's just it's my favorite league right now. I'm really enjoying this the summer stretch of tracks we're going to, and it's one of the better run leagues that I'm in. So I look forward to closing the year out with them.
Well, Blake, congratulations on a great run here tonight at Road America. We look forward to seeing what you do further on down the stretch, and of course next week at Watkins Glen.
All right, thank you.
And let's get our second place finisher, Derek Justice, in here. Or, I'm sorry, third place finisher, I should say, Derek Justice. And Derek, I want to just quickly go back to that incident out of Kettle Bottoms after you guys got out of the kink, right on the back bumper of the 40 machine, and we saw the rear end step out. What happened there?
Just a driver mistake and nicked the grass a little bit because I saw Dylan overshot the corner. So I was going to go on his right side, and I just went too far right, nicked the grass, and I was out of control there.
We saw you, the 40, the 99, a number of drivers come down pit road and restart around 11th back through 15th, having to get by some drivers that were on about 6-lap older tires up in front of you. How difficult was it to be patient working your way through that traffic?
Just timing the runs. Like, the straightaway speed, the guys versus old versus the tires is really that much of a difference. It's just the center speed in the corners is where you got to get your momentum up and hopefully set up for the pass for the next one. That's the main thing. But, the people on old tires, the straightaway speed, unless you had damage, it's roughly the same. So it's just the center speed to try to get around on them is all.
Yeah, Derek, we saw you running for most of that last stint behind drivers and trying to get by as many machines as possible. How difficult is it trying to make sure that you hit your right braking points, that you're not over driving someone else?
It's really hard because, most top guys, the guys in the top 10, top 15, that mostly the braking points are the same. So it's about, who can just go into corners a little bit deeper and carry the more center speed than the other person. That's pretty much all it is. So, like I said, here you just gotta attack the corners. I feel like and just carry the center speed off. It's not like a Sonoma where you gotta really back up the corners and get the runoff. Here, I feel like you had to get in the corners like really, really hard and carry the momentum going in the corner, which is mostly opposite for most road courses, in my opinion. So.
Yeah, Derek, when we talked to you earlier on in the season, you said, the road courses aren't really your forte. I think you've got 2 top 10 finishes of 9th place in 2 of the 4 road courses we've been to. How much of a feeling of relief is it to be finishing out a road course as technical as Road America is with a 3rd place run?
I'm just going to say this with Road America. No, this is my second race with the VD pedals, and I think equipment matters when it comes to equipment when it comes to pedal wise, because what was it? Homestead, Roval, and Spa, they were way different. Trying to be consistent with the braking zones, but Road America is just it just get on the brake and not lock them up. It's just the main thing, and I think it's helped me a lot.
Well, Derek, obviously a tremendous run for you here tonight, a third place run, your best finish at a road course so far this season. You continue to be up there at the top of the playoff standings. You've got a great number of playoff points heading into the remainder of the regular season. We're heading to another road course next week in Watkins Glen, so obviously we wish you luck there. Hope that this momentum carries over, and we're going to let you do some shout-outs now.
Yeah, obviously, shout out for you guys putting the broadcast on. Butt kick for No Sports Racing. My viewers on Twitter are big supporters of me, and I'm happily to give back to show them what I'm capable of and help them along the way. And just whoever's watching on the broadcast, thanks for watching.
There's Derek Justice. He brings it home P3 here tonight at Road America. Congrats on a great run. We look forward to talking to you later on this season. And let's go down to Victory Lane, where Dylan Alt is standing by, his first win of the season. And Dylan, I just want to point out that I was asked by Sam during the broadcast of who I thought the one was to watch, and I told him the numbers don't lie. Your numbers at road courses this season have been exceptional, and I was thinking you were going to be the one to watch, but you had to fight your way up there to the front. It took you about 16 laps to get from 11th to 1st. Describe that little bit of an adventure.
It was an insane race. I think this is probably my favorite road course race, just because of the battles and stuff like that. But I never thought this was going to be my best road course race. I thought I would do worse than my past races, just because I don't have that much experience on this track. But I did a bunch of like B-fix races just to get ready for it, and yeah, it just worked out.
Yeah, this is going to be the next to last road course of the season. We do have Watkins Glen coming up next week, but how much pressure is taken off you knowing that now you've found Victory Lane with where you were positioned in the point stands? You are now going to be in the playoffs for the FTF Grand National Series.
Yeah, when I first joined the league, I never thought I would be able to get anywhere near the win, but I always thought that I would get a little more closer if it was the road courses. But the last two races, I had terrible luck, like Daytona Roval. I had a really big shot of winning it, but I made a mistake of going green too early. And so, yeah, I wanted to win this race really badly, and it's a big relief.
Yeah, I mean, Dylan, you had a extremely quick car out there, and you could honestly just see it by looking at the pace in the lap times you're putting down. But when you were seeing the 3 car was closing in, what were you thinking, and were you looking through your mirror at all while that 3?
Yeah, at first, probably around 10 to go, when I saw, I was just focusing on trying to catch back up to Derek, because I made a mistake, so I wanted to pass him, and then keep my eye on Philip, because he had no one around him and he was running away. So I just wanted to limit the gap, and I was not paying any attention to Blake until we had 3 to go. Right when I got the lead, then I was scared. I don't know how to explain it, but somehow it worked. I don't know.
Well, it definitely did work there, Dylan. You bring it home with the victory. You're locked into the playoffs here for this series, and tremendous run for you here tonight. It actually continues on the streak of 3 back-to-back first-time winners in the last 3 races. So we congratulate you on a well-deserved win. You had to definitely fight for it there to get back up to the front. And we're going to let you do some shout-outs now.
Thank you. Yeah, I'd just like to shout out SPG and just the battle that me and Derek had and a bunch of other drivers. And yeah.
That's Dylan Alt. His first win of the season takes place here tonight at Road America. Once again, congratulations on a tremendous victory. Go and enjoy it.
Yeah.
And so that's going to conclude it here, Sam. And I think, we had a lot of information from last night's Road America race over in the other series that we did. This one played out just a little bit differently than we expected, I think.
Yeah, I mean, with having the admin called cautions, it really makes it difficult for some drivers to get into a rhythm after we had our competition caution. But it was a different race completely from what we saw last night that went almost completely green. And Dylan Alt really showed off that he had a quick car and had a little bit of luck that helped him out. But man, overall, a great race to watch.
Definitely was. And I think that with the fact, as I said, we're getting so close to the end of the regular season, these drivers are realizing I am in a must-win situation. I need to find a race here in the end of the season to make sure I am going to be battling for that championship. We had Brian Mercurio do it back at the Daytona Road Course. We had Michael Frisch do it back at Iowa. We had Seth Merchant last week at Oxford Plains, and here tonight it is Dylan Alt. So it begs the question of who's next with the tracks we've got coming up for the remainder of the regular season schedule.
I mean, who's next? It's going to be difficult to say because, like you said at the beginning of the broadcast, Dylan Alt was that guy for road courses that we kind of were like, maybe him someday. But honestly, I think Philip Kraus and Mercurio looking for redemptions and how this race went, as well as Derek Justice after his spin out. Those drivers really are trying to make a bounce back after the way that their race went here today.
Absolutely. Well, we are going to have our next Flatout Racing Network broadcast here for the FTF Grand National Series all the way in the end of September. September 26th, we will be coming to you live from Las Vegas Motor Speedway as the first race of the playoffs. Next week at Watkins Glen, STN will have the call, and then the following two races at Daytona and Darlington, it will be Podium Esports setting your 12-driver championship grid. And then we will have the next four races during the playoffs at Las Vegas, Nashville, Charlotte, and Homestead. So it should be a good one. Sam, I also think we've got broadcast tomorrow night as well.
Tomorrow night, yeah, we've got the Cars event where we've got racing going on, and that's going to be a fun one to watch. That's going to be going on at 8:20 Pacific Eastern Time here on Flatout Racing Network with the Tech Hub TV Cup Series, guys.
And then Monday, to start out the week, we've got the Monday night racing at Homestead Miami Speedway. A lot of big name drivers that you may recognize from out on the NASCAR circuits are going to be taking part in that one. So be sure to tune into that race as well. Got a lot of other stuff coming up in this upcoming week. Going to be some good racing with RTG, with G-Force, and of course the Rapid 5 Pizza National Series, the Talladega Challenge for RTG. They're crowning a champion this Thursday, so there's a lot of stuff that's going to be happening this upcoming week on Flatout Racing Network here on YouTube, Twitch, and Facebook Live. But a wild one here tonight at Road America with Dylan Alt getting his first win of the season and locking himself up a spot in the playoffs. Sam, I know tonight was a little bit of a rat race trying to swap over from Soda Guys to FTF, but I think it managed pretty well, and I appreciate you joining me for this one.
Yeah, it's always a pleasure, and it was a fun one today with you and I jumping from one series to.
And we appreciate everybody that tuned in to either one or the other or both of our broadcasts here this evening. We hope you guys enjoyed it and hope that you guys will be back to see what we've got coming up here in the future this week. But for Samuel Dyer, I am Seth Cole. Thanks everybody for tuning in here tonight to the FTF Grand National Series presented by Splash and Go Graphics as you've been watching another broadcast courtesy of the Flatout Racing Network.